Hello, everyone, and congratulations to those who made it to week 3. My name is Kelsey Reed, and I'm a member of the Beardies and Okimastsis Cree Nation in Duck Lake, Saskatchewan. I currently live on Treaty 6 territory, whose original inhabitants were members of the Papashace Band. So, through colonization, the Papashace Band members were displaced and removed from the area that we now refer to as Edmonton, Alberta. As I acknowledge the land I'm currently living on, I humbly admit that I'm always learning and in the process of understanding my own relationship to land and place. I'm an assistant professor at MacEwan University in the Department of Child and Youth Care, and I'm currently working on my PhD, which focuses on Indigenous identity development. So I've dedicated both my personal and professional life to honoring Indigenous culture and history, and I'm currently teaching many university courses that look at the deep impacts of colonization and how it's impacted Indigenous children, youth, and families. So in recent years, government at the municipal, provincial, and federal level have taken positive steps towards truth and reconciliation. There's been public apologies for stripping of First Nations of their language and culture in residential schools. There's been the returning of traditional names to landmarks and communities. And also we are starting to put up displays in museums and so forth. But this is not enough. So we have a long way to go before the discrimination and ignorance that goes hand in hand with the white man's burden, so deeply embedded in Canadian culture, is eradicated. So while there are countless resources available, including websites, free university courses, and books for those interested in educating themselves, there's still a disconnect in understanding how every piece of land is attached to Indigenous origin, history, and heritage. So this week, your challenge is to dig into your local or personal history, and shine a light on how Indigenous culture is a part of your community and your life. For this match, judges will be looking for beautiful, respectful images that educate and pique curiosity. So shooters, you have until 7 p.m. on Sunday, January 24th, 2021 to conceptualize, shoot, edit, and submit your work for Inconspicuous Indigenous. Happy shooting.
All right. Tansy, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this week in our week 3, Inconspicuous Indigenous. We want to welcome everybody, challengers, judges, and fans of the shooting range. We are grateful for all of you for being here week after week, and we hope that you're enjoying yourself so far. Thank you to judges Leroy Schultz, Darlene Hildebrandt, Tammy Darren, and Jenna and Amy Hobbs. A special thank you to our guest judge, Kelsey Reed, for being here today. Kelsey is an assistant professor at MacEwan University in the Child and Youth Care Department, currently in the process of completing her PhD in education with a specialization in Indigenous people's education. Thank you so much for being here today, Kelsey. We would really appreciate it and love it if Kelsey wouldn't mind doing an acknowledgement to the land for us tonight.
All right, an impromptu land acknowledgement. Can you hear me okay with my headphones on?
Yes.
Good. So I think as we get started, especially with the topic this week, it's fit to do a Treaty 6 acknowledgement. So welcome everyone. As we get started here, it's good to acknowledge the land we're on. And so, that process of understanding our relationship to land and place will look different for everyone, which is, I'm currently in the process of learning. So if depending on where people are watching from, I'm from Edmonton area or just outside Edmonton. So Edmonton actually was formerly the home to the Papashace Band. And so when we do the land acknowledgement, we recognize, how this was a meeting place for Indigenous communities, right? With its location right next to the North Saskatchewan River, they made a prime location for different people to come together. So, as we move forward and we're all kind of discussing the different pictures this week, it's just important to acknowledge that this is treaty land that we're on, Treaty 6 territory. And and also too, just to acknowledge, the Papasteo tribe, the Papasteo, they were associated with the Papashace Band. So depending on where you are, acknowledge the land that you're from. And thank you for having me this week. Bye.
Thank you so much. So as you all know, we have already started week 4's challenge. And in doing so, we are missing one of our challengers. Justina had to drop out for personal reasons, and we wish her the best of luck with her photography career. We hope that she is able to continue on with her multimedia and her photography. So when this happened, it kind of left us admins in a bit of a pickle, little bit of a conundrum. We weren't sure how we were going to proceed with this week. And we weren't sure, like, do we keep everybody safe or do we still send somebody home this week? So shooters, this week, we felt it would be unfair to your teammates to be down by a member and decided to let you all be safe this week. So there will be no elimination to anybody this week, however, this does not mean that you are safe. The consequence of coming in last place this week is simple. You will need to bring your A game next week. Because if you were placed in the bottom 3 for next week's challenge, you will automatically be eliminated, regardless of which of the 3 bottom spots you come in. So please make sure that when you submit next week, that you are submitting your strongest images, okay? We've given you some feedback in your private group on how to achieve that going forward. I suppose we can go right into the slides, Hope, and we can show you the first one, which is an image of everybody's. Okay. We are going to start by acknowledging 3 of our contestants this week who did not place in the top 10, or the top 3 or the bottom 3. So our first one is in 4th place. Go ahead, Hope. In 4th place was Corey Lynn with her image. It's beautiful. 5th place is Karen. And in 6th place is Shalene. Thank you for your submissions, ladies. You are safe this week. So in no particular order, we are going to start with this image right here. This image was done by Rain, titled Not My Land. And Rain, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes.
Thank you, dear. Your concept for this image comes from a deeply personal space.
Yeah.
Can you briefly explain why this image is important in your message?
Yeah. So for me, something that I've been learning a lot about is the land. I'm trying to unpack that because it wasn't always a place I wasn't always in a place where I was open to really understanding the land I was on. And I think that just comes from a deeply rooted place of privilege. And yeah, I just really, after stumbling in my brief my artist statement, I was at some sort of event at the legislature, and I saw Indigenous youth protesting. And actually one of those youth is a great friend that I had in high school. And I got to have a really intimate conversation with him after I saw their piece and learned more practical ways, or not even just practical, but we had a really candid conversation, and he was able to directly communicate to me ways that, land could be reclaimed, and just the reclamation and the spectrum of it. And so I was like, yeah, this is something I can actually do instead of be almost intimidated by. And then, yeah, throughout that journey, I recently found out through diving into my personal history and listening to stories from my elderly family that my family had actually settled and killed Indigenous people for land, because it was given to them by someone that had no authority to really give it to them. And it made me feel really accountable more than I had before. And it drove me to personally take a stance to do my best and do my part within what I can do to use my privilege to spotlight these issues, as well as literally just put my finances and my time and my heart into doing my job in giving that land back. Sorry if that was longer.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Amy and Jenna Hobbs, you two loved this image, but suggested that Rain reshoot the concept. Can you tell us what you would like to see done differently?
First of all, I want to say that I think it's great when you can spot somebody's work. And I saw this and I knew Rain shot it, or that was my guess anyways. We loved this concept. We thought it was really strong. We commend you for your personal reasons and putting that into the photograph. However, we believe it could be so much stronger and so much more powerful if the quality of the photos were better. In previous shoots, you've shot with an iPhone. I'm guessing you did this time. And I think this time it was obvious. The difference in tones between the images. Some of the portraits are just not really stellar in our opinion. We thought if you didn't change anything, like they still had their signs, you still used these subjects, but just differentiated them from their background, shot a different aperture, we thought it would be, even more powerful. Amy, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, you pretty much covered what we discussed. The other thing that we talked about, besides making stronger portraits, was doing a layout like this. Is I think visually it would be more stronger with having the "let's give their land back" more centered in the frame. So whether you shoot more subjects or create the grid differently, I think it would be easier for your eye to roam around. But I love this concept. I do think you should reshoot it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Kelsey, you appreciated the personal reflection that Rain gave as context for this image. How effective is this image as a visual message?
Yeah, so I did love the narrative that went with it. It really added to the photo. I think it's very timely, just because exactly what you said about understanding your own privilege, understanding your own relationship to land and Indigenous people and culture. So I really love that concept. I can't speak to photography because obviously that's my sister's jam, not mine. But the one thing that I would encourage is that if we're thinking of a social justice movement, is how does this step forward into the next realm, right? So you have a message, it's not my land. And so one of the things I would encourage is like, okay, so then what, right? So in the photos, they're great, not my land. So acknowledging that is the first step in like social justice and activism. And so it's like, in the pictures, how do we as a society, how do we realistically go forward with that, right? So you saw the message, you've thought about it, and I think it's as your thinking evolves around that, it can lead into some really good thinking and discussion starters as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for your insight on that one. Judges, tonight we're going to do 2 questions per challenger. So at the end, if we've got time, I'm going to give you an opportunity to address any of the images that you would like to talk about, okay? Okay, Hope, you can move on to the next slide. We are going to move on to Randy's image called Bannock. Randy, can you give us a little more information as to your choice of images for Inconspicuous Indigenous this week?
Oh, I don't know. I went with Bannock because I don't know. It's more of a when I heard the word inconspicuous, to me it means living amongst, secretly kind of a thing. And to me, Bannock is just it. I grew up with it. My grandma used to make it. My mom made it. Um, it brought back a lot of memories. I think we were talking earlier, and all I needed was some moose meat, and I would have been a happy camper. I was practiced making it all week. It's just to me, that's culture right there. It it's yeah, I don't know. It's that's all I could really think of was Bannock. So
Thank you very much. Darlene, do you think a different vantage point could have helped driven home the directive of this image?
And honestly, I can't remember what I commented on that. I did comment on the flame being cut off bothered me, and then the fact that it was either a flashlight or a flashlight or a flash or something. It's very flatly lit, the bread itself. But I'm like, as Randy was talking, I think it hits the brief. But the challenge is, as judges, we see all of the images, so we can see the messages and the storytelling and the technical of all of them, and it's hard not to sort of compare. And I think in terms of like culturally, yes, Bannock, everybody knows Bannock, but I think you could go maybe a little deeper into something, and it could have been a little better done technically regarding the lighting.
Thank you.
and
Leroy, oh, sorry, go ahead.
just one in my defense, that was done on Friday night when it was like minus 20 something outside. So
The challenge with that, Randy, is that the judges don't know the circumstances of it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just because it was hard doesn't make it a good picture to the judge, right?
Oh,
We
yeah,
can
no.
only judge what's in front of us.
No, I know there's going to be some critique on it, but I was like, I mean, I was afraid of my camera losing battery power. That's how cold it was. So, but all good.
And it kind of drives home that the judges really enjoy the context that's put in with the images, because it helps them understand where you're coming from. Okay, so Leroy, how effective is this image as a visual message, do you think?
Well, the first place I went to when I saw this image was a little bit of hunger of, there's never a bad time for Bannock. So I appreciate the content and the message on this. There's a lot of things that sort of bothered me about it. Like everything is, there's not really a sense of balance to it. There's a lot of black space, for instance, in the top right. So maybe some cropping, some different composition. I think in my notes, I also pointed out that the lighting on the Bannock is cool toned versus warm tone in the fire. I think, bringing this in, cropping it tighter would have had a lot more impact, but it was a solid effort in my mind.
Awesome, thank you very much. Hope we can move on to the next one. This is Danielle's Horses of Sundry. Is Danielle here today?
Danielle is not here today, and she was one of the people who did not put her statement in the correct spot on the form. So the information about the brief did not make it into the judging form.
Okay. Kelsey, do you feel this image was unique and inspiring? And what concept or idea do you think the photographer was trying to portray with this photograph?
I think my initial feedback when I saw it is that I went back to kind of what the goal was for this week, or I don't know what the script,
Brief.
not the script, the brief, sorry. Yeah, there it is. And I had a tough time making connections between the photo and what they were looking for, just because, you know, I was kind of going through my head. I even went back to look through some books I had. And when we're talking about Indigenous culture, you know, especially in the context of reconciliation, horses, you know, there wasn't that connection made between the horses and the cultural components to it, just because the brief, I didn't see the brief, or I couldn't make the connection. But yeah, so we're looking at colonization, and then, you know, the concept is reconciliation for the week, or kind of looking through what the calls to action were. I just didn't see that connection. I couldn't make sense of it. You know, there are certain communities, like I know, for example, Cree communities, they do have like horse dance ceremonies, but there's just no indication in the photo that if they were making that connection, especially if we're looking at like the Sundre area, the history that's there. So yeah, it's a very nice photo. It just, when we're looking at the brief and the theme for the week, I couldn't make that connection.
Okay, thank you. Tammy, how effective is this image for you?
When I initially saw it, I also agree with Kelsey. That was one of my notes, was I wasn't entirely sure what the horses had to do with the brief. So, but as far as the rest of the image went, if you bring it up nice and close, it definitely is not in focus. I like to see photos in focus. As well as the subjects are very dark. So the horses' heads are blending into each other. So that's just, without getting into too much technicality on that, it's just a matter of how you shoot it, your aperture, your ISO, all that stuff comes into play. The biggest one though for me here is the framing of the horses. It's very, very tightly cropped. It would have been really nice to see a little bit more of where the horses are. So the fact that it's cropped in super tight, the focus is on the fact that I can't see the middle guy's head very well on my screen, and well, they're all quite dark. We can't see their eyes. And you know me, last week I like to see the eyes. So that was my critique on this one.
Awesome, thank you very much. You can bring up the next one, Hope. This image here was light paint of Leo Arcan's sculpture. Oh, I had it written down. Please forgive me. Nature's Harmony. And it was done by Bless J. Bless J, it looks like you put a lot of thought and consideration into your choice for your image this week. Did this challenge push you more than the other challenges? Can you tell us why?
I would say it pushed me to learn something outside of the photography world. You know, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm talking to you guys, but it's like I've like, you know what I mean. It had me educate myself a little bit more on culture within our community, not just, you know, like I haven't done a lot of light painting. I've done a little bit, so that was still a little bit, but I wasn't learning that. I was learning what I was like. I kind of chose the colors based on the wheel, and then I basically had to dig deep into the wheel, and you know, I guess like through some of my life stories and whatever past experiences I've been in like some of the lodges and in and out of the system and treatment centers and stuff like that, but I didn't know that much about it, and so I learned that, right? And that's good, right? Because it's good to educate yourself too, and in other ways.
Awesome, thank you. Leroy, do you think Bless J was successful in translating their thoughts into this visual form?
Yes, I think so. This is one of the images that made me stop because it wasn't quite literal, right? It's you have to stop and think what you're looking at and what it means. And I appreciated his story about, you know, the colors representing the medicine wheel. And I think there's a lot to like about this image. Some technical things I would want to see addressed. The medicine wheel isn't quite centered. I would really like to see a lot more of the background. You know, it looks like this was dealing with nighttime lighting, which is difficult. I think from like a bird's eye view, this is a really well done image. Although I could, you know, split hairs and get more into the technical, but I think this is a great effort.
Awesome, thank you. Hobbs, would you change anything about this image?
I'm with Leroy, first of all, and I'll drag Jenna along with me. We love this one. Last week, we asked people to really spend more time mulling over concepts to narrow it down to something that's going to be visually readable and strong. And it just made me happy to see this, to see the growth from previous weeks. So yay. Jenna wanted to see it cropped more as a portrait. We were in disagreement about it. I personally would have liked to see it shot a little bit wider, just because with the size and possibly the light painting slightly larger, because the lower part of this image feels a touch heavy for me, just with the lighting and where the circles cut off. But I mean, I was so happy to see the direction that this was going and how you chose something. It's very clear. Loved it. Good job.
Jenna, did you have anything to add?
No, I agree. The cropping was off for us. We didn't really know how that needed to change. I wondered if you shot it more in a portrait so we could see more of that street behind. At first sight, that's what I loved about it, was the contrast between the street and this beautiful statue. When I saw it, I liked the photo, and then when I read the blurb, I loved it. So yeah, really good job.
Awesome, thank you very much. Hope you can move on to the next one. And here we have Janet with red dress teepees. Janet, your submission came in just under the deadline this week. Do you feel you were prepared for this challenge? And would you do anything differently?
So with this challenge, I had a whole slew of ideas that I wanted to do. And the one thing that I did want to do, I realized I wasn't able to. So this was shot sort of last minute. I wanted to give light to the fact that the Red Dress Project, my main goal in the whole shooting was to focus on missing and murdered Indigenous women. And, you know, I looking at it right now, there are a couple of things that I wish I did or I had more time to do, but I don't know what else. Like,
Yeah, that's okay. It's tough when your original idea goes kind of out the door, and you have to come back and refocus. So it's a learning process completely. Darlene, do elements like color, composition, details, and depth of field help or hurt what you perceive as the concept of this image?
The color, I know the representation of the red dress, and I actually went to go get my little red dress necklace because I thought I should have it on. So I'm very familiar with what it represents and the concept, but honestly, when I looked at it, I didn't see these as dresses. I thought they were like a sack, because the one that's kind of wrinkled, to me, it looks like something that comes on a bottle of wine or something and you pull the drawstring. Like I looked at it close up and I can't see that it looks like a dress to me. So I kind of struggle to put the two together. The lighting on the dress and then the shadows, I don't know if that was done in Photoshop. It looks like it, maybe, that there's some shadow behind each of the dresses. I'm just looking at my big monitor. And for me, that it's like the shadows are too strong and it doesn't fit, because you asked me about lighting, and the lighting in the background image, yeah, there's the shadows. The lighting in the background image is very flat and sort of nondescript. And then there's these harsh shadows on the dresses and it doesn't match. Like one of the things that I teach in terms of like doing editing and stuff is that if you're going to combine images, the lighting quality and the lighting direction has to match. And it didn't for me here. I think the concept is right on for the brief, but the technical just fell a little bit short.
Can I answer that
Yep.
one? That was done on purpose because, and it was done in Photoshop, and I did it without the shadow in the background and with, and I wanted it to stand out, and I didn't want it to blend. I wanted it, and I didn't want it to look like a dress. I wanted people to look at it and say, okay, what is that? And the dress that's crumpled, I actually took that picture of the dress on my stairs because I wanted it to be like perfect and imperfect, and get people to start asking questions as to why.
So I do have a question from Jenna and Amy Hobbs. Are the red dresses representing gravestones?
It depends on how the person looking at it. It could also represent because when we see red, we think sexy, gorgeous. So I wanted it to be a mix of emotions. I wanted people to look at it from different perspectives and take away their own story. And then in the end, my whole point is that these are actual people that wear these dresses and they're missing.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Kelsey, how effective is the image as a visual message, and what do you think would have helped this message be stronger?
Okay. Yeah, so to echo, when I first look at it, I had a tough time picking out the dresses. And so when we're talking about how effective it is, so the red dress, like you're going with the red dress project, which is, there's art installations all over the country kind of thing. And so the dresses, someone asked about the gravestones. And so from my understanding of kind of that, the message that's being crossed, it's to represent the Indigenous women who have been murdered, that their spirit hasn't come back, right? So these people were murdered, the grief and loss that families are experiencing. And so I actually thought about it for, a day or two, and you're saying you wanted to leave it to mystery, but your words I'm mixing up there, but it does, each dress is representing like a lost cousin or sister or mother kind of thing. And so I think to me, I didn't necessarily agree with it being photoshopped in, just because it's, it's based on another arts installation, and it's a very like deep and personal stories that people have of their loved ones being murdered. And so I just had a tough time with it. I didn't necessarily agree with kind of the uniform dresses along, just because, it just represents, it's based on another project that was happening. And so I feel like if you're going to take on something like the Red Dress Project and, violence against Indigenous women, is that, maybe you would get a real dress or a red dress and put it somewhere to kind of follow that suit. But yeah, so I had a tough time with this one, just because like I know people who have family members who were missing and murdered. And so kind of making that uniformed, difficult to see and understand that it's a dress, I just kind of I struggled with it.
Thank you very much. Hope you can bring up the next one. This image is by Angela, and it's depicting residential schools. Angela, you dived deep into the subject of residential schools and admitted you learned a lot. Tell us why you would have liked to see this as a photo essay, as you had mentioned in your comments.
Well, there's just so many different parts that I thought I could have included, like focused more on the items, like such as the ones in the trash. And the one thing I wished was that the little girl's hair was short, but I had to work with what I had. But just to showcase different features, like the boy who, you know, he's got the braid in his hand, that it had to be cut, just so I could focus on different parts of it. I think it could have been definitely an essay with multiple images.
So let me ask you, did you shoot all of those elements anyways?
Well, the hair that he is holding is actually mine. I took a photo of myself after they left because I had my hair in a braid, and so I did Photoshop that in.
Okay.
But no, I didn't actually do that afterwards, no.
Okay. Tammy, did this particular image evoke any kind of emotion for you?
Yeah, so this one did stand out to me right away, and I immediately felt that it hit the mark. I could definitely see the elements as to what the photographer was trying to relay. For me, the lighting is really good, but there are some elements here that could have been lit a little better. I didn't even notice the braid till you pointed it out. So I guess I did write in my notes that the bottom half of the image probably should have been lit a little better. And I feel like I'm now seeing the braid that probably would have helped that out a bit, as well as the top of the image. There's some words at the top that aren't showing up very well. But yeah, I really like the feel of this, the mood of this. It gives you that ghostly feeling of the past. And yeah, all the items that are in there definitely bring, oh, I can't even talk. Definitely the brief hit the mark with that. I did make a note about the eyeballs, just being careful it's not too much white showing because it does look creepy. But then I also mentioned that it actually kind of adds to the mystique of this image as far as technicality goes anyways.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tammy. Leroy, what do you see when you look at this image? And do you feel this image tells a good story?
So first of all, I think this is a really well done image. The thing that stands out to me is that there's a really nice contrast and a certain level of dissonance between, oh, look at this beautiful lighting, and then as you study the image and you go closer to it, you realize that it's this somber topic of residential schools. And I had limited experience with it because my university girlfriend was Cree and her mom had gone through the residential school experience, and so heard stories about it and saw the effect years later. So for me, this image has a lot going for it. I think the lighting works really well. I'll disagree a little bit with Tammy on that because I think the focus is on the people in the image rather than flooring or anything else. That's where my eye goes first, and then it kind of flows outward to pick up the other details. So I think overall this was an excellent image.
Awesome. Thank you very much. How are we on time, ladies?
We're at 9:37. We're all right.
We're all right. I'd like to give the judges, if each of you have one that you would like to talk about, Just one. I'll give you some time. Who would like to go first?
I think Kelsey actually had a question regarding the, if
Oh.
we can read the chat.
Yep.
It says, are the kids in the image Indigenous or identify as Indigenous? And that's from Kelsey.
Well, I did put out a model call for Indigenous children, and so the mother responded. So I'm assuming that they are. I don't know. They're local here in the area, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think so.
I would assume if the mother is saying that they are, then that they should be too. So I would be along your same thought lines. All right. Is there any judges that would like to speak on a specific image?
Can we see all
Darlene,
the, sorry, can we see all the images again?
can you put
Can
up
you
the
jump
first
back
one?
to that spot?
There you go.
Okay, so my turn?
Yep, you go ahead, Darlene.
I was struck by the one of the statue and the light painting. I do a fair bit of light painting myself, and I know how difficult it is. So some of the things that people were asking for, like, you know, position the circle a little differently, I know how hard that is to do. So that didn't even bother me that it wasn't perfectly centered. I didn't even notice it till somebody else mentioned it. I would have liked to see just a bit more space above it, but I loved everything about this image, the colors, the lighting on the statue. I don't know if that's just there on the street or you created that with some light painting as well. I'm assuming either there's a spotlight on the statue or you did that with a flashlight or something. But the circle is absolutely perfect. That's also really hard to do. So kudos for, but also the background that you researched into this and found this statue and put this all together and came up with this idea to, you know, shoot it at night. Brilliant. Like, it just conveys so much in this image. And I would hang that on my wall.
Thank you. Any other judges want to speak to any of the images?
I just want to say two quick things. One about the Not My Land image. I thought that one was brilliant. I think there's a lot going for it. There's a certain rawness, which I think ties in well with how raw the topic might be for a lot of people that that don't know what the history is and maybe don't care. And, you know, I think confronting the history of Indigenous peoples and what, you know, those of us that are white, those of us that are immigrated to Canada in the last few generations will need to take back that rawness. So I think in a lot of ways that works. And then just a quick comment about the image to the right with the teepees and the dresses. This takes me back when I saw this image. There's technical things that I wish were different. Like there's not a good sense of balance for me as far as, like, I wish the teepees were farther up, higher up, because there's a lot of margin there, and then the red dresses feel really tight. But this takes me back to when I started going to the old Edmonton Art Gallery, and there was the work of Jane Ash. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Portra? You guys probably know her. She's a famous Indigenous artist. And when I was shooting for the Art Gallery of Alberta just a couple of years ago, I finally got to meet her. And a lot of her work has this. It's repetition, and it's you know, for me, this was one of the images that also made me pause. So, you know, I think a lot of the suggestions for what could have worked better are valid, but I think overall, Janet, you did a good job on that, and I commend you for that. And overall, I really love the work of all the contestants this week. I think it showed effort, it showed depth, it showed the things that we want to see, which is you're connecting with the brief and the challenge, and especially a topic like this, which I think is really important and timely to us. So well done.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment too, Billy?
Absolutely. Yep,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
the again, I'm going back to the bottom left hand corner there. So blessed J, is that it? That's
Yes,
a,
it
I don't know
is.
if that's the name or not. Man, this picture totally just nailed it on the head. And I think with what you considered, you looked at the description or the brief for the week, you did history, you did some reflection, and I just love how you have that kind of urban indigenous incorporation into it, just because when we think traditional, sometimes we default to, kind of stereotypical indigenous things, where I find this really accurately represents like indigenous identity or identity development, specifically because we know that more indigenous people are living in the cities than ever before. And so I just think it's such a nice combo of like respecting indigenous peoples, culture, traditions, but putting that urban spin on it. I just thought that was really well done and really well thought out.
Thank you. Tammy or Amy, go ahead.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Angela's one portrait of the residential schools. To me, this was the first week I really saw overall people putting a lot more effort into thinking through concepts. And with Blush J, we really saw it taking away from the literal, whereas this, it was such a strong basis for a concept, but you need to allow people to think. And by writing absolutely everything in with words, you're kind of stealing people's experience of being able to think about it, because you're telling them what to think. You have enough small details with the braid and different other elements that just take all the words away. I also suggested, I believe, for this one that you reshoot this because it could be done again much stronger. Also, in the concept of overall incorporating correct mood for the concept, there is older schoolhouses in the area that look less backdroppy, that would be much more appropriate to the mood of this image.
I
It's a
actually,
concept, and I think you should reshoot it.
yeah, I did attempt. I contacted so many places in Edmonton, but because of COVID, I couldn't get in anywhere. So I had to do it in studio, but no, I agree. That was my initial idea.
Awesome, thank you.
Wanted to mention too, like the one with the red dresses. I was really torn on this one. When I really stared at it after a while, it just, like Leroy was saying, and I made this in my notes, it looks like a really cool abstract art piece that could just go in a gallery. So kudos to that, because it is pretty cool that way.
Awesome, thank you. If there's no more comments, we're going to move on to the
Can I say something about the one with the feathers real quick?
Sure.
That was actually one of my top 3 picks. That one, yeah.
Hold on, Darlene. It's not in
so we're not discussing it.
Okay. So we're just not going to discuss it. Otherwise, we have to discuss everybody.
Gotcha.
Can I say something just in general?
Sure.
Just speaking to everybody, you were allowed to submit an artist statement, I believe. I don't know exactly what was asked of you. But as a judge, reading your artist statement, we want to get the full story, I guess. I don't want to, although it is interesting and educational to click on your links and go research it, I want to read your artist statement and I want to get a full sense of what that image is or is about. So just think about that. Not only are you taking a photo, which we all love, then, I mean, I'm not great at it, is creating that artist statement to match that, do a good job of explaining that photo.
Awesome, thank you. So be aware of that, challengers, that this is specifically what the judges are going to be are looking for, so that they can put context to what you're looking at. Not always are they going to understand your vision and sometimes they need that little extra in order to see where you're coming from so that they can also appreciate your art. Okay, Hope, let's move on to our bottom three this week. Nope. Our bottom three this week are Randy, Danielle, and Janet. Randy, the judges all kind of had the same idea, is that they appreciated the Bannock and the inconspicuousness of it, but they all feel that you could have went just a little bit further with it. So next week, dig deep and go beyond. Okay. Danielle, for the most part, judges were on the technical side of this, and they needed to see more of the image. They also needed more context. So make sure next week when you are submitting that you give that to them, and make sure that you're on point for your technical. Janet, it was mixed for the judges. Some of them really loved it. Some of them think that you could have done more with it. It's important to read the briefs and understand them. And if at any point any of the challengers are not understanding the brief, please contact us so that we can help you understand it. We want you guys to be set up for success, okay? So in 7th place this week is Randy. In 8th is Janet. And in 9th is Danielle. So Danielle, you must bring your A game next week. You don't want to be in the bottom 3 because it won't be good. Let's move on to our top 3. Top 3 are Rain, Angela, and Bless J. You know what? All 3 of you hit really well. All 3 of you impressed the judges with your submissions. And you are all safe this week, of course. And in 3rd place is Rain. In 2nd place is Angela. And in 1st place is Bless J. Go on to the next slide, Hope. Congratulations, Bless J. Overall, this was what the judges were all really excited about this week. You did an amazing job with the light painting, with telling the story, and with giving everybody some insight into the culture that we have in Edmonton. We appreciate your submissions this week. And, oh, I forgot to tell you that we do have a prize for Jay this week. Our prize is from Riverbend Roasters. Coffee, they're not a coffee shop, right? They just produce coffee, Hope?
They're a local coffee roaster.
Oh, a coffee roast, but they don't have an actual like coffee shop though, right?
No, you have to go to those fancy boutique stores to buy their coffee.
Oh, so Jay, you get 4 specialty blends and a pretty cool mug. We will put those details up for you tomorrow. And then we'll put you in, or Hope you have it with you, right?
I do, and I will, since Blessed Views won the fan favorite Friday as well, and those are being shipped to me, we'll make the exchange when the time comes.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Can I, Billy, would I be able to ask just one question, either Hope or one of the admin, and maybe Kelsey can chime in on this, but because of the submission using Leo Orcan's statue, when you post that out there, because obviously his piece is so much of the photo too, can we make sure that we're
Giving him credit.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So that is it for this evening, guys. Congratulations, Bless Jay, for an amazing image. As as part of the admin team, we were really impressed with your submissions. We still keep thinking you can dig deeper. So next week you are in team challenges, and let's see what you guys produce. Oh, Darlene's holding up some sweetgrass, I'm guessing.
Yes, smells good.
Okay, so we are going to say goodbye, and then, yes, we'll talk to you guys all later. Have a good night.
Hi, my name is Kelly Falato, and I'm a burn survivor, and I got burnt when I was only 2 years old to 75% of my body. I never thought that my story would be able to turn me into a best-selling author. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but actually 7 times. And I'm a motivational speaker, and I share my story around the world. And so I was called the ugly Scarface girl, but as a result, Global TV named me on Christmas Day as one of the most inspirational people of 2020. Isn't that incredible? But what was more incredible is that right after they mentioned me, they shared a little story from a 9-year-old girl that said, "I now feel beautiful about myself." And I thought, oh my God, that is incredible. So I now encourage people to tell their stories. And this is where I'd love to give you some strategies on how to tell a great story. So my first thing is, what makes a great story? It's a couple things, but one thing is, does it pass the eyebrow test? Now the eyebrow test is something that makes you go, I wonder what that's about. And the second tip is, does it evict emotions? We want to be able to look at a picture and feel something. What is it that we want to feel? I don't know. Every picture will bring some sort of a different emotion or a feeling to you. And that's what we want to do. We want a picture to tell the story. We always say that a picture says 1,000 words. And it absolutely does. And sometimes those words are different. But anyways, so we want that picture to tell the story. So this week is a team challenge, which will require communication, collaboration, and cooperation to create a set of 3 images. There will be a winning team from which the bestseller will be selected, and a team whose story didn't add up, and the book will close on their time here on the shooting range. Judges will be looking for a strong theme with compelling images that are independently noteworthy but cohesive as a story. Challengers, your submissions are due by 7 p.m. on Sunday, January 31st. Good luck.